Hey there, friends. Meteorologist Ashley Ruiz here. It is, we're coming up on 10:15 at least. It's 10:14. So if this finds you later, we're live on Facebook and brproud.com right now, the BR Proud app. You may have gotten that alert, so thank you for joining in. We're going to talk all things tropics. Now tropical depression Cristobal. It has weakened over Mexico and parts of Central America this morning, just moving into kind of on the border of Mexico and Guatemala, and you can see it's not very impressive on the infrared satellite this morning, and it will continue to weaken as it just moves slowly to the east-southeast. It was nearly stationary overnight, started to get that movement to the southeast again, but it is just crawling. Max sustained winds of 35 miles per hour. And you can just see more impressive convection just to the northeast of it right now. You see those really bright colors there just near Cancun and just the northern portion of the Yucatan Peninsula. So we'll have to watch the progression of this. It is eventually going to lift back to the north into the Gulf of Mexico by Friday. The question is, how long is it going to stay over land before it re-enters the Gulf of Mexico? It may even ride the coast of the Bay of Campeche and then just the coast of the Yucatan on Friday before it begins to lift to the north. So the water vapor imagery shows us a bunch of things. We have all that moisture with Cristobal over Mexico and the Yucatan Peninsula, even into parts of the Caribbean. But then to the northwest of it, we have very dry air. That orange-brown color, that is indicating that dry air that is just in the good portion of the Gulf of Mexico this morning. It's going to really start to disrupt things, but we will start to see an area of low pressure begin to dig into the Gulf of Mexico, which will help eventually steer it more to the north. Also, we'll have some steering from high pressure, all of that fun stuff. But to show you the latest track from the National Hurricane Center, again, it has weakened into a tropical depression. Max sustained winds of 35 miles per hour, and it is still anticipated to just move over land. They kind of moved the center of the cone a little more to the east over the Yucatan Peninsula through Friday. Does show it's starting to re-enter the Gulf of Mexico tomorrow night and then gradually intensifying with the dry air in place, and then the wind shear that will be in place going to interact with some of that. That's really going to keep it from rapidly intensifying. I had a few folks ask me about that. Is it going to rapidly intensify? We're not anticipating that. We're still anticipating a tropical storm. Maybe a minimal hurricane at landfall, but at this point it looks like it's going to stay as a tropical storm at landfall somewhere along the northern Gulf Coast. It's been pointing toward Louisiana, been pretty consistent with pointing toward Louisiana Sunday night and early Monday morning. Max sustained winds perhaps at landfall may be around 60 miles per hour, give or take, and the middle of the cone brings it just to the east of Vermilion Bay, just near Morgan City. If it were to take this exact track, which of course, notice the cone is still quite large, but still it's smaller than it has been, that means confidence is growing. But if it were to take this exact track, that would put Baton Rouge pretty much right to the east of the center. The track that you're seeing on your screen, that line, that indicates where the center of the storm would go toward. The cone of uncertainty, that indicates where the cone or the center of the storm, the center of circulation could track. So that brings it all the way close to Galveston, all the way to around Pascagoula, the Mississippi-Alabama state line. I want to emphasize that impacts are going to be felt well away from the center. The National Hurricane Center, and I will quote them for you once I find their discussion, basically just saying impacts will be felt well from the center. This is their quote exactly. Cristobal is forecast to reemerge over the southern Gulf of Mexico on Friday and move northward over the central and northern Gulf of Mexico over the weekend. There is a risk of tropical storm force winds this weekend from Louisiana to the western Florida panhandle, and a risk of dangerous storm surge from Louisiana to the Florida Big Bend. These hazards, along with heavy rainfall, will arrive well in advance of and extend well east of Cristobal's center. Tropical storm and storm surge watches could be issued starting tonight or early on Friday. So that's something we're going to be watching very carefully, and we'll bring you the latest on that. Where the center goes is really going to be what will pave the way of what we'll see here. Tropical models have been very consistent with the Louisiana landfall, but you still see some of those outliers out there. Some pointing maybe a little more to the east, some pointing a little more to the west. We could see some wobbling, and the reason why I'm saying that, and the question I've been talking about over the next 24-36 hours, going to tell us everything. If it spends more time on land, it's likely going to be weaker, it's going to be sloppy, and we'll likely see a broader wind field as well. Rain, the heaviest rain, may be well to the east of the center. If that were the case and it made landfall in Louisiana, yes, we'd have some issues, but the heaviest of rain could be, let's say, Alabama and the Florida Panhandle. That's the thing with these sloppy storms. If they just are more unorganized and they're sloppy, where with the heaviest of rains, the greatest impacts are usually well to the east of the center. If it spends less time on land, it's likely going to be more a bit stronger, whereas it'll be more organized. We'll generally see the greatest impacts just near that center, northeast, and then to the east of the storm, including that would be storm surge, heavy rain, all of that, and the greatest winds as well. As of right now, the National Hurricane Center, as you saw, the track was bringing it somewhere, again, that maybe the Louisiana coast late Sunday night, overnight into Monday morning. So again, the greatest impacts would be felt Sunday and Monday. What exactly will we see? That is all to be determined once it gets back into the Gulf of Mexico. Again, that is going to tell us a lot where it's going to go. Is it going to track more to the west? Is it going to track more to the east? This is all dependent, and our impacts are all going to be dependent on where it goes, how fast it gets back into the Gulf, and how disorganized it will be. Will that center of circulation reform, and where does it reform? That is going to be the ultimate question. So I will run through some of the models for you. Just this morning, combing through Twitter and Facebook, I've seen lots of people posting different runs of the model or resharing models from previous mornings and nights. This is the latest from the GFS model. This one is from earlier this morning. It brings a more unorganized storm to the Louisiana coast sometime Sunday. But I'm going to step back a little bit in time. Notice you're seeing those bright yellows, the orange colors, and you can really see where the heaviest of rain is setting up, well east and northeast of that center. That would be more focused on the Florida Panhandle, and then going forward in time through Monday and into Tuesday, we're still dealing with rain, even though Cristobal would be lifting to the northwest. This is the European model, so another model. I don't want you to focus on one, honing in on one model run. This is the run from earlier. Still waiting on the latest model data to come through. But this shows a more organized storm and making landfall in South Louisiana, moving to the northwest. And notice around that center of circulation, you see that circle, that closed circle just to the south of Baton Rouge. That is where, and to the northeast and east of that, where we'd see the greatest impacts. And you see it lifting away, and we're still dealing with some rain, but drying out as we head into Tuesday. Keep in mind, one model run, but the general consensus does show potentially a Louisiana rain landfall. As for tropical storm wind probabilities, give it a minute to kind of pull in the data from the National Hurricane Center. There you have it. Those are the probabilities, those colors you see, some yellows, the greens, and that's just showing nearly around a 40 to close maybe to 50% chance for some tropical storm winds for this through 5 days, of course, forgot to mention that. Now the timing, this most likely timing, bringing some possible tropical storm winds to the very, very coastal zones of Louisiana around Sunday, I would say late morning into the afternoon, evening. But notice that wind field, again, those colors stretch all the way to portions of the Florida Panhandle as well. This is why the National Hurricane Center is emphasizing that impacts will be felt well from the center, potentially even that tropical storm force winds, as the wind field will eventually start to expand. This is the earliest time, the possible time of tropical storm force winds. The other one was most likely. So the earliest we could see some of those tropical storm force winds, that could be as early as late Saturday night, early Sunday morning, but most likely Sunday and Sunday night. So just a heads up there. My main concern, and this is going to continue to be the main concern going forward with this one particular system, going to be the heavy rain, potentially some flooding, coastal flooding, and some storm surge, as I mentioned with what the National Hurricane Center had said. The storm surge obviously for our coastal areas, but even our tidal lakes, Lake Pontchartrain and such, could see some pushing of water, so some flooding there as well as water gets push. So the eastern zones, the eastern facing shorelines, so that would be technically the west, would see the most piling of water. Also northern shorelines as well, but eastern facing shorelines would get the most ponding of water. But this is all dependent on where the center of circulation does end up tracking. This in particular is more for the heavy rain that we're expecting over the course of the next few days. This is through Tuesday morning. Our area could easily see between 3 and 6 inches of rain widespread, and then some spots could see over 10 inches of rainfall in a short amount of time, or just over the course of a few days. But with any of any heavy rain bands that do move ashore, again, you could easily pack on 10 inches of rainfall, 12 inches of rainfall through the case of this system. So something we're going to be watching, but again, this is all dependent on where the center of circulation does end up going. If the storm is more sloppy and it's not as organized and stays on land in the Yucatan longer, these rainfall totals will likely go down, and then it would be pushed more to the east. If it's more organized, then sure, this would definitely be our potential rainfall total. So again, everything is dependent on what happens over the span of between 12 and 36 hours. Once it re-enters the Gulf of Mexico, that's when we will really know we'll have an idea of what we can expect here in South Louisiana. But as you heard from the National Hurricane Center, if you are just joining us, they said that storm surge watches and then tropical storm watches could be issued tonight or Friday. But again, keep in mind, as I mentioned before, I'll show you the track again just for the folks who are just joining us. Even though you see it, the cone has been trimmed to include parts of Texas all the way to the Mississippi Gulf Coast and even into closer to Alabama. That is the cone of uncertainty and where the center of the storm could track toward and make landfall there. But again, impacts can and most likely will be felt well from the center. What those specific impacts are to be determined. Again, as I mentioned, so it would mainly be, as of right now, on the current track, it would be Sunday and Monday mainly. Could see some tropical storm wind gusts late Saturday night for our coastal parishes, and could see a few rain bands move ashore, some feeder bands could move ashore late Saturday, but more so Sunday and into Monday, making landfall Sunday and into Monday early morning. And again, the heavy rainfall totals, coastal flooding, exactly what kind of inundation we could see for our coastal zones, even just our lakes. our tidal lakes, that is all to be determined. And keep in mind, with some of these feeder bands, you could see a few spin up tornadoes. Again, all of that is to be determined. As for your forecast for today, it's going to be a pretty dry day, I would say. We will still see some area showers and storms, but coverage is not going to be as high as it has been. Now, Futurecast, I'll walk you through time for the next 56 hours or so into Friday. We'll see some passing showers and storms. In the meantime, it's going to be hot and humid. You'll feel that tropical air in place being pulled in. As for Saturday, during the day, we'll likely see some showers, nothing all too bad. Winds will probably start to pick up. And then Futurecast, at least it was showing earlier, so it has backed off on that, showing a few of potential rain bands moving ashore. Also, I'll show you the 7-day just to show you what we're looking like here in the Baton Rouge metro over the course of the next few days. So we'll hit around 89 today, 90 tomorrow, and then Saturday and Sunday we are still looking at highs in the 80s, and again we will be tracking Cristobal, and all dependent on where the track ends up. If it ends up shifting to the west or even to the east, we'll still likely feel some impacts from this. Just those exact numbers are still, we're still trying to get those answers. But as I mentioned, once it reemerges into the Gulf of Mexico, which you can see that's anticipated to happen on Friday, we will have a better idea and understanding on what's going to happen. But as of right now, the path has stuck to a potential Louisiana landfall sometime Sunday night, overnight hours, and into early Monday morning. So what I would do is go ahead, download the free BR Proud app. That is going to be a great tool to have through all of this. You can get the latest on where to pick up or go and get sand, so you can get some sandbags. Just don't forget to bring your own shovel. You know, if you live in a flood-prone area, I would go ahead and do that. You can get the latest on Cristobal and all of the rest of our systems that we get this season. Hopefully we do not, but you know how it goes here. And you can always find the latest on the coronavirus on our BR Proud app as well, because keep in mind, you may have to still take in effect your social distancing. And with phase 2 tomorrow, again, a lot of changes are underway here in Louisiana. So you can always find the latest on brproud.com, our app, and then here on Facebook as well. And then if you go on brproud.com, you can look at the top. You'll have the latest and greatest of the updates from the National Hurricane Center. You can track the storm yourself, and great tool to have. And I would go ahead now, it is hurricane season, make sure you already have your supplies ready, and I would clean out your storm drains in your neighborhood, perhaps your gutters. Bring some of those loose flying objects in, because again, if we end up seeing a Louisiana landfall, we'll still see some tropical storm force wind gusts perhaps around the area. And so you want to bring any loose flying objects or loose lying objects, bring those in. Your plants, your lawn furniture, all of that, I would bring them in. And then always stay up to date with us. Chief Meteorologist Jesse Gunkel will be in this evening. He'll give you the latest on all things Cristobal as well. I will continue to update on Facebook and then Twitter, all of that, and you can always find the latest. We'll have full team coverage. We have news out in the field as well, and we've got you covered all hurricane season long. So in the meantime, if you have any questions for those on Facebook, just type below. I will be more than happy to answer your questions and then break this all down for you a little more. And then if you're watching on brproud.com, go ahead and you can email me at aruiz@brproud.com, or you can just go on Facebook and ask questions there as well. But in the meantime, we're going to end this Facebook Live and stream, and then we will see you guys later. Stay safe.